Coming up on today's episode of Airborne, EAAers meet the administrator. The deadline for ADSB is fast approaching, but how will its cost be covered? And we get the latest update from Trig Avionics. Welcome to Airborne at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh. As you can tell, it's been a very rainy day here today at Oshkosh, but that didn't stop FAA Administrator Michael Huerta from holding his annual Meet the Administrator meeting. The topic quickly turned to the third-class medical. Tom Patton has that report.
EAA and other organizations have long been advocates of removing the third-class medical requirement for some classes of pilots, but Huerta said that an administrative exemption is not the route to take.
We do major policy changes through the rulemaking process. Now, the easy thing for us to do would be to say no. Our objective is to try to get to yes. And so we've begun the rulemaking process to address this issue. Now, the downside of the rulemaking process is that it does take time. But that is how we get what you want.
Still, Huerta said that the process was likely to be a lengthy one and he could not provide a firm time frame. Huerta said it depends in part on how many comments are received and how long it takes to digest and respond to those comments. EAA Chairman Jack Pelton said it was the organization's position that he does not want the process to get bogged down by an administrative exemption. Huerta also said that the comment period has just closed on a revised draft advisory circular dealing with allowing a second pilot to fly in an experimental amateur-built airplane during Phase 1 testing. He said allowing an experienced pilot to ride in an airplane during that testing would enhance safety.
Many times the pilot who built the aircraft may not have had prior experience in flying that type of aircraft. And it's exactly during the testing phase when it makes sense to have a pilot who's more familiar with the aircraft accompany you. This best practice guidance is an example of the FAA and EAA really working together to make things better for the experimental aircraft community.
Huerta also talked about the Part 23 rewrite, but did not offer any specifics.
We essentially reached the conclusion the whole thing has to be rewritten. A wholesale rewrite of Part 23 is what's really in order, and so that's what we're doing. It is, we've looked at could we divide it into chunks and do it a part at a time, and we actually concluded it would make it more confusing for people than not less. And so we are very focused on the rewrite of Part 23 because we think that's also a key factor in getting where you're trying to get here.
Huerta went to great lengths to portray the FAA as an agency that is responsive to the GA community, stressing on several occasions that the agency's focus is how do we get to yes. But what was clear is that the gears of government are going to continue to grind slowly. For Airborne, I'm Tom Patton.
You're watching Airborne. We'll be right back after these messages to bring you more news from EAA AirVenture Oshkosh.
Small, light, and ADSB compatible. The Sandia Aerospace STX-165 Mode AC transponder provides an uncommon value for today's aircraft. Check it out now at www.sandia.aero.
Concorde Platinum Series batteries are available for all aircraft and offer extra cranking power, resulting in less draw on the battery per cycle for longer life. Visit booth 2053 in Oshkosh. Concorde, for the heart of your aircraft.
The debate is no longer about upgrading GA aircraft with NextGen, it's about financing it. The NextGen GA Fund is about doing just that. Find out more at www.nextgenfund.com.
The Evolution Flight Display System from Aspen Avionics delivers unique reliability and safety features to GA pilots and is truly the most flexible and affordable EFIS available. Aspen Avionics, a new way to look at avionics. Waco Classic Aircraft now offers the Great Lakes 2T1A2. Inspired by the classic YMF 5D, it's smaller but with 180 horsepower, simpler avionics, and fully aerobatic. Waco lets you fly simply for the fun of it. www.wacoaircraft.com
This Aero-TV segment is brought to you by iFlight Planner. It's time to elevate your flight planning experience with General Aviation's most comprehensive suite of easy-to-use flight planning tools. Make the switch and plan your next flight with iFlight Planner.
Welcome back to Airborne at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh. There have been 2 local accidents associated with the air show this week. One occurred Wednesday evening north of the airport near the prison, and the other on Thursday morning on the airport grounds. With the amount of air traffic that will be associated with an event like Oshkosh, it's only a matter of time before somebody bends metal, breaks glass, or splinters wood. We send our thoughts out to those who are involved and their families. Today at AirVenture, ANN's Jim Campbell caught up with Trig Avionics, who's introducing their new TN70 WAAS GPS.
One of the things we wanted to touch bases on was the recent announcement of the TN70. What does this mean for Trig, and more important, what does it mean for the ADSB out community?
Well, the TN70 complements some of the other things that we've been doing on ADSB. It's a standalone WAAS GPS, which is fully compliant with the ADSB requirements for 2020, and it's useful for those guys who either don't have or don't want a panel map navigator to meet the requirements. So it complements the existing solutions and really makes it much easier for a lot of the guys to go forward.
Hilton Software has rolled out WingX Rewind, a new black box technology that enables WingX Pro 7 to record and playback flights on iPad. WingX Rewind's data engine has the capability to record and playback any number of parameters, including GPS, AHRS, pilot static, and ARINC 429 data. Rewind provides the data compression to make this happen. In playback mode, WingX Pro 7 behaves as if you were there, with synthetic vision, attitude indicator, approach chart georeferencing, split screen, smart taxi, and other views are updated in real time for the ultimate flight review realism. WingX Pro 7 is available now in the Apple App Store. Airborne at AirVenture is brought to you by some of the best sponsors in the aviation business. We'll be right back with more news.
AML's patent-pending wireless induction charging system eliminates confusion over those charging cables, cuts down cockpit cable clutter, and allows you and your passengers to fly cordless and eliminate the cable nightmare. www.aviationmodificationleaders.com.
The Bendix King KLR-10 Lift Reserve Indicator is now available for certified aircraft. It is an affordable, intuitive device for angle of attack awareness. Mounted on the glare shield, KLR-10 provides visual and audible lift cues while scanning for traffic or monitoring the runway on approach.
A real airplane, not just a toy. The Airplane Factory Sling is a high-performance two-place LSA that fits the needs of private individuals, flight schools, and flying clubs alike, and has been called one of the best-handling LSAs on the market. Check it out at www.airplanefactory.com.
ForeFlight Mobile gives you better situational awareness, more productivity, and simplified decision-making in one elegant app. Start your 30-day trial today and discover the joy of flying with ForeFlight.
Welcome back to Airborne from Whitman Regional Field in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It seems like we just covered the story of the SubSonex mini jet's first flight, and now we got to see it in action here at AirVenture. They must be hustling at Sonex because 2 more of the jets have now been produced to join the personal jet fleet. The SubSonex design team will be working to collect and analyze flight data in order to finalize published performance numbers for the new jet. Documenting the performance is the last step remaining before SubSonex kit reservation deposit holders are given their opportunity to place firm orders for the 2014 kit production. The FAA deadline to have ADSB installed in aircraft is placing a financial burden on thousands of airplane owners. ANN's Jim Campbell sat down with NEXA Capital Partners Michael J. Dyment to discuss how financing is going to be accomplished.
Yesterday we received a letter that Sam Graves had sent where he's expressing his disappointment and his encouragement alternately to try to get this program off the dime. What effect does this letter have? What are your comments on it? And more important, what do you think the administrator should do with it?
I think the letter speaks the sentiment of the entire general aviation user community. The letter asks the FAA Administrator to really bend over backward to try to get these incentive programs in place because time is running out. The FAA mandate has been around for several years, but we've only got 5.5 years now to equip 157,000 general aviation aircraft in the United States. If you do the math, that's about 120 aircraft every single workday between now and January 1st, 2020. That leaves very little time or wiggle room for uncertainty. And I think that the FAA putting these loan guarantee programs out finally is going to be another big boost to try to keep this industry back on track with these new mandates. I do want to add that this is a good opportunity for GA aircraft owners to invest in their aircraft. It's typically the case that if you take the time to invest in the new technologies, whether it's just ADSB out or it's ADSB in and other things like new radios, etc., the fund, the NextGen GA fund, will finance these things. This will make your aircraft more saleable. It will certainly improve the value of your airplane. And if you're one of those unfortunates that does not respond in time for the mandate, then come January 2nd, 2020, someone who's not responded is going to park their airplane. They're not going to be allowed to fly it. So there's every incentive now. If the FAA just completes its job and task, this industry is going to just flourish.
You're watching Airborne at Oshkosh. We'll be right back with more news.
The aviation industry is far too automated and impersonal. Levels of care, service, and focus on customers have faded. Concierge provides premier customer care, leading our industry on a return to service. Find us at www.concierge.aero.
Who doesn't love to fly on a beautiful day? Views like these are half the reason you got a pilot's license in the first place. But as we all know, conditions change quickly. Sure, you've trained, but how often have you used that training in actual conditions? That's where the IMC Club comes in. If it's important to becoming a better pilot, we've got it covered. Because at IMC Club, our goal is to help pilots everywhere to be safer, smarter, and ready for anything.
Trig Avionics, presenting the world's smallest certified Mode S transponder with matching VHF comm radios that'll easily fit in the tightest panel space. Contact your approved Trig dealer now. Trig, smart, affordable, and future-proof. $295 and counting. That's the number of lives saved so far by the revolutionary BRS airframe parachute. See and read why BRS can keep you safe at www.brsparachutes.com.
Welcome back. On the eve of AirVenture 2014, ANN's Jim Campbell sat down with EAA Chair Jack Pelton. We've been bringing you portions of that interview all week long. In today's segment, the two discuss the future of aviation fuels as well as certification issues affecting the industry.
Great stories about young people coming into this business. We've been enjoying one of your volunteers' daughter's efforts on our behalf. Maria Morrison joined us. Still in school and all that, and comes out full of enthusiasm, does a great job in doing stories from her standpoint, from everything from interviewing Bob Hoover to judging the various ice cream stands at Oshkosh. And I love seeing that enthusiasm, and I encourage it at every opportunity, but at the same time, I'm just thinking, what's the hook out there? Is it going to be an airplane, a program, a concept, a new license, whatever it takes to just kind of light it off all over again?
And part of that is our responsibility. We have to be more inviting. I mean, we've got to find ways to share our enthusiasm and what was it for us. Part of that is to get rid of the stigma of, yeah, when I started to fly, I could rent a 150 for $12 an hour, and now it's costing me $100. Okay, things have changed since then, but let's not get mired down in that. Why was it that we wanted to learn to fly? What was it that we did with that airplane that kept us wanting to come back to go rent that airplane and go explore?
Well, on the cost factor, let's talk a couple issues. I do have the perennial question from one of our readers, is when we're going to get MoGas at AirVenture.
There's a couple members that call me frequently to ask that question. We missed the boat on it last year in getting prepared for this year to have it, but I am trying to find a way to get a a truck out here next year, because that is important. A lot of my friends are running blends. I have a friend that flies a 172 pipeline patrol, and he mixes 50-50, and there's more of that going on than I think a lot of people recognize. And it's legal. It's all STC'd. But yeah, we need to get that truck out here next year.
There's been some action on Av Fuels. It certainly is positive, but it's still slow. Where do you see that program going, and what are you doing at this point to kind of nudge it forward?
We are actively participating in the, I think they refer to as PAFI committee, and we're one of the people who are helping to fund that. Big milestone of recent as to who are the companies that have elected to submit their fuel blends going forward. That was a nervous time for us. The big issue for this is the commercialization of it and the distribution. And to see 2 major oil refineries step up is great news. It's always scary too, because you're talking about a major oil refinery and we all get scared about, okay, what's that going to do to pricing? But that at least shows that there will be refinery capacity, there'll be rail and truck capacity. They're starting to sense that economically this makes sense for them. So I'm feeling that that hurdle that we just got over is a significant first step. The next step will be who gets left behind. Does this fuel really satisfy all the airplanes that are out there, especially the high compression turbo folks? And what's it going to cost? I mean, if the answer comes back, I can solve 80% or 90% of the fleet's issues, but it's double the cost, then we have failed.
Speaking of certification, we got some press releases yesterday. Aviation finally got the IFD 540 and R9.3, a couple of years behind schedule, but the key there was the fact that they were kind of waiting on the FAA to do their thing. The certification issue, STCs and the like, has been huge. There's some extraordinary talent out there, but they just can't get stuff through the FAA. How active a role has EA taken and might take in the future in regards to trying to get FAA to either let loose or delegate or whatever the case may be, because it's obvious they don't have the horsepower to do it now?
You know, we kind of draft in behind Gamma on the certification activities with the FAA. They take the lead, but we're actively side by side with them. Our issue is really, from an EA lead, is more around the experimental amateur built category and what are they doing with the rules there. And we have equal number of issues of rewrites and activities that are going on the FAA that concern us that could change the dynamics of that game. So that's where our focus is, and then the overall certification. We all, as associations, try to lock arms and bring our membership to the FAA saying, you got to pay attention to this. The certification, it brings up, and this is something that we've tried to impress upon the administration from Pennsylvania Avenue on down, is this is all about employment, economics, the economy, and if they could connect those dots, they're missing an opportunity to help.
We're talking about Washington, Jack.
We are, but we got to keep pounding on them around that, because there's another great example, the 141 schools. They've had requests in the queue forever to get 141 schools approved. These are the schools that are going to produce pilots that are going to fly for the airlines who are having shortages. And when you look at it from a bigger national priority, you want to say, grab them by the shoulders and say, wake up.
The stuff they do react to tends to be way off the mark. Look what happened to pilot certification issues. And as a result, right now, the airlines are kind of going, okay, where am I going to find pilots? Because nobody's got the times necessary or the credentials at this point to actually start flying for us anymore.
And the cost, I mean, you look at the new ATP rule, individuals are not going to spend that kind of money to get their ATP on their own. They're going to wait for an employer to cover that cost. Was it 10 hours in a simulator? You have to, I think it's a level D simulator. That's a lot of money.
Well, that's our program. Remember to tune in tomorrow for our last day of coverage of EAA AirVenture Oshkosh. And we want to give a special thanks to Emery Riddle for giving us a place to stay dry during the rain. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching.